All right, hey guys, you've made it. We're on the Fearless Pursuit of Freedom podcast, and today on the show, I've got a guy that's been in the industry, real estate industry, for over 12 years now. Passive investor of over 403 units, correct? 403 units, and started out in luxury high rises, went into mortgage, and now he's back into syndication, lead sponsorship, and passive investing in multifamily. I'd like to welcome you, Jimmy Edwars.
Thanks for having me, Brandon. Glad to be here. Thanks for the intro.
Yeah. So we'll dive into how'd you get into multifamily, or why did you get into multifamily, and why you stuck to it and why you're concentrating on it full time.
It's a good question. Multifamily for me has been pretty eye opening. I started out flipping houses. Probably have 100 flips under my belt, and had accumulated, several rental properties. And I felt like single family was going to take a lot longer to get to my goals than I could achieve in multifamily. So got plugged in around the Metroplex with some people doing multifamily and started learning about it. And it really opened my eyes, about buying and selling businesses. When you're flipping a house or having a rental property, it's, the numbers are a little bit simpler, and multifamily, was something new to learn. And once I learned, how to analyze deals and underwrite deals, it seemed like a much faster way to scale to get to freedom, so that was kind of what drew me in. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. And then what I thought was funny when I was trying to get all my crap together before we got to the show is you're a Brad Sumrock student, and I was looking at my Facebook memories, and last year, me and Ashley were touring one of Brad's buildings. And I thought that was a pretty funny coincidence because we've only been to like 2 of his events.
Yeah.
And
this time last year I was at his R2R, and that was when I kind of started my journey. I knew that, I wanted to get into multifamily, but I didn't know how. And so I'd always been kind of hesitant of seminars and gurus and mentors. And, about 3 hours into his deal, I realized this was the right time and place for me. I'd become a little bit, I hate to say bored with single family, but, it had its challenges, but they were challenges that, seem to be reoccurring with, the house flipping business. So for me, getting, staying challenged and staying busy is what excites me. And it really was a huge catalyst.
Yeah. Yeah. So everybody gets into multifamily because of the passive, and, I'm on the same page as you is I love single family and I love flipping, and but I think everybody gets into real estate for the passive. And
exactly.
So what I've got here is your lead sponsor in one of them, partner owner and passive in 2 others. How'd you get into, or what, as far as lead sponsoring, did that deal come to you? Did you find a broker, or?
That deal was actually, it came from a broker. So I'd started, coming from the single family game, I'm used to being direct to seller, off market deals.
Yeah.
So going into multifamily, initially I had the same mindset. But, I'd say almost 100% of the time, anything over 50 or 60 units is probably going to be listed with a broker.
Really?
So I started getting on, getting into databases, into broker databases. Mm-hmm. And this particular deal was, it fit, in multifamily, a lot of reason people get into it is, the cash flow, obviously. And so, you get a better loan with a stabilized asset. It's 90% occupied. And this particular deal was 50% occupied.
Really?
So 50 units were vacant. And, having a flipper mindset, for me, the huge value add component, the heavy lifting is kind of where my brain tends to shift. You can have value add components that are management based or, operational driven. But, I saw this deal. I underwrote 5 deals that day, and this one really stuck out to me. And it was in Lubbock, Texas, which is where, I went to college at Texas Tech University. So I knew exactly where it was. I think I probably have partied in the courtyard many years ago. Yeah. So it kind of, it stuck out to me, and we drove up there, a couple of days later to do a property tour and just chase the deal. It was, the second or third deal that, I seriously chased, and it ended up working out. So couldn't have done it without a team. That's probably the most important part. It's definitely a team sport, but that's how we got into that deal.
Right. So I guess probably a lot of my listeners aren't going to know too much about the real estate world, and specifically multifamilies, and what we're talking about when we say, either as a lead sponsor or syndication. Can you tell them a little bit about the position and role of a lead sponsor in a syndication, kind of like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So in multifamily, if you were going to buy a 100-unit apartment complex by yourself for, $3.5 million, in order to get that loan, you would need 2 things. You need a down payment of, roughly 20 to 25%. So, about $1 million, let's just say, to keep it easy. And you would need a net worth of at least the loan amount. So, 2.5 million net worth. And then, the banks like to see that you've got some liquidity in there. I think, let's just use 10%. So you got 250,000 in the bank, net worth of 2.5 million, and a $1 million down payment. So in a syndication, which is what we would call, I'm a syndicator. I'm, as a lead sponsor in this deal with, other, 2-3 other partners, that are part of the sponsorship team. And so we came together, and we used all of our resumes in order to kind of take down the deal. So I've got some partners on the deal that, have liquidity component, have the net worth component, but, not necessarily the time to, be in the day-to-day operations, in the weeds of, the other side of the picture. So we kind of put our resumes together and take down the deal. And then we raised the equity from what you'll call passive investors or limited partners. So we raised $1 million. We did a SEC Regulation D capital raise, and we raised the money and used that as the down payment. And as the sponsorship team, we get an override on the cash flow, and then we also get an override when the property sells at the capital event. So we invested money into the deal as well. So our money's working for itself. And then the other component is, the work that we're putting in, so that our investors don't have to put in any work.
Yeah. And you said this particular unit was 50% occupied. How was the condition of the property? What kind of things did you have to do to bring it up to market? And did you do other value adds, such as paid parking or laundry or other things?
Sure. So this, it was an interesting deal. When we first went out there, kind of the picture that had been painted was that the chiller went out last summer, and in Texas heat, it's 103 degrees, And a lot of people moved out because it didn't get replaced in a timely manner.
Yeah.
So that was kind of the initial picture that was painted, which is understandable. But when we started digging in, there's a lot more to that picture. I think that, the management team and the owner, had probably been a little bit behind the curve for some time. So, maybe they ran out of capital at some point, or maybe they, some sort of event happened where, the chiller was kind of more of the tip of the iceberg type of deal.
Yeah.
So, we got there and there was 50 units that were vacant, and, people were still turning in their keys. And so the good news is we got a new chiller. It's got a new roof. It's got, a lot of, a new paint job. I mean, over time there was some money put into the deal, but at some point, it fell apart as inside with the tenants and the management company. And, I think there was a lot of areas where it could have been handled, look, at the end of the day, these things take money, right? And so, you got to have pest control, you got to have AC. You got to have a management team that has the resources in order to keep the tenants happy. And,
Right.
if you start running out of capital, at some point, the management company is not going to have resources to keep people happy. And I think ultimately that's what happened. They've been through 5 or 6 management companies in the past 2 or 3 years. So, the management company could have fired the owner, and the owner could have fired the management company. But at some point, the ship started sinking. So we came in and we were able to identify, a price that made sense. Hey, stop it, buddy. Sorry, my dog is here wanting to get in. We did our due diligence, and, we kind of started noticing that, Humpty was a little bit more falling apart than we had initially expected. But, from our experience buying distressed single family homes, the red flags started popping up, and I said, hey, I'm still willing to do this deal, but we need to renegotiate the price, which I hate to do. I don't want to ever do that. When we say we're going to do something, we like to do it, but it just turned out to be something different. And so anyways, we agreed on a price. And I said, hey, we're willing to do this deal, but based on my experience, I know that there's going to be, other things, around every corner, we're going to uncover a rock, and there's going to be, a new snake. And so we're fighting through some of that right now. The expectation was there that it was a distressed asset, and, we're going to find a lot of problems, and we had money in the budget for, contingencies, and we're starting to find those things. We showed up on day 2 closing, and there was a cardboard sign on the pool, and it said, pool is closed due to residents, not following the rules. Swim at your own risk. Chemicals may or may not be treated correctly. And I'm just going, management companies blaming the pool closed on the residents. Like that's real professional. So, we took that sign down and got a professional one put up, and, we start treating the pool and getting it running. And, we go to pull the permit from the city, and the last permit that had been pulled was, 3 names ago. It's just one of those things. And so we changed the name and get the permit pulled, and, they come out to do the inspection, and it needs this upgrade and this upgrade and this upgrade, which, weren't new code things, they're old stuff. And so we finally get it to the point, and, it's leaking water. And so we're working on getting that remedied. And, so a lot of value add stuff, that's similar to flipping houses, but really, just getting the units turned and filling them up. That's going to take some time. They all need make readies. Some worse than others, but it's there's a lot of value add components that are probably there, like reserve parking. I don't think they're charging for pets. They're not charging late fees. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff that, we can do if we keep the asset for, if let's say the market, there is a downturn and we keep the asset, there's a lot of things we can do to drive the NOI. Hey, what? Man, you'd think I'd have a toddler here, but it's a dog. Probably what we'll do is we'll get it filled up, make it pretty again, redo the pool, redo the deck, landscaping, get it filled up, and then reevaluate, where the market is and what we can get for it. And then, leave other, components on, more meat on the bone for the next guy. You know what I mean? So that's kind of our business plan. We underwrote it on a 5-year hold, extremely conservatively. I think we'll probably, we'll exit quicker than that, or have, refinance it. And everybody will keep the cash flow moving.
Nice. So you've been into that one how long now?
We closed on that one. I think we're probably 7-8 weeks now. So,
really?
Yeah. So we're still fighting through surprises, you know. But you start to see the light at the end of the tunnel. Yeah.
Nice. Yeah. So obviously you switched out management companies on that one. At least I assume. But did you go with one that you referred with, or did you end up? How'd you go about picking that?
Part of being in the Sunrock program is having access to a lot of people that have done deals in a lot of different markets. And we actually reached out to some friends of ours that had just closed on a deal in Abilene. And the property management company there, they referred us to them, and they actually have 6 other properties in Lubbock. We interviewed them, and they've what I liked was that they have C-class properties, and they've also got brand new construction. Yeah. So they're familiar with older properties, different tenant base, but they've also done lease ups. So it was kind of, in my mind, a perfect marriage, to treat this property as a rehab, but at the same time, someone that's got experience with doing a new lease up and kind of treating it like that. Yeah. And so, they've been pretty monumental in helping, being boots on the ground out in Lubbock. And they've got, the regional manager lives there. They've got 4 or 5 other properties. So, we went in and, we didn't even have to, the property manager had been on site for 2 or 3 weeks. I think she quit, 2 weeks before closing. So they had their regional working there. Yeah. The maintenance guy was, only 2 weeks old, and he was, I think they put him at the property, to eventually get them off their payroll. So, we came in and we didn't really have a choice but to hire, a new manager, a new leasing agent, new maintenance guy. And in the process of interviewing people, we were able to, borrow teammates from the other properties locally. So, that was really, in my opinion, going into a market with someone that had market experience has really been monumental in helping us achieve success.
Yeah. Nice. So you got an on-site management there as well as on-site maintenance.
We do. We have a property manager and a leasing assistant, and we have a full-time maintenance guy, and then also a full-time porter.
Oh, nice.
So, yeah. There's 4 people. I think once we get 100% occupied, we probably won't need 2, leasing agents. We'll just, have the manager, and she probably won't need an assistant, but, and maybe even, maintenance guy and the porter, eventually once it's running tight, you probably would only need 1 guy, I would hope. So, going into it, we underwrote the deal, front end loaded with, staff. So, once we get it up and stabilize, I think we'll be able to, maybe reduce some of those expenses.
Yeah. Are you trying to, so is this your most recent acquisition? Are you trying to incorporate like anything new into this one that you've learned from previous as a passive or a partner, like new technologies or?
It's a C property. It's all bills paid. Hey, man, this guy, unbelievable.
Just wants the attention.
Yeah, he does for sure. So I'm going to get distracted. Give me 2 seconds.
Yeah.
Come here. Sorry about that. We were initially set up in my office, and I had him out here with a toy, and I had my door closed, but my connectivity was bad, so I moved into his area, and so he's bucking up on me because I'm in his space.
Yeah.
But, we're buying 70s and 80s vintage properties, in B and C areas. At least for this property, it didn't call for any real, technology upgrades. I mean, they're getting cable and internet provided, and that's something that's a good point. They were in that submarket. Everyone gets free cable and internet with all bills paid properties. Right. But our goal, a lot of the properties that we toured were bad credit, no problem.
Right.
So, we're kind of looking to a little bit more of a premium segment where, there's still a class of people that love knowing what their expenses are. And so all bills paid is attractive, that are not bad credit, no problem people. So eventually one of the value add components is that the free cable and internet, we're actually going to rub it back to the tenants. So that'll be, something that they actually end up paying for. That probably won't happen until we get filled up, but at some point that will shift, from an expense into an income generating activity. I mean, I think we're paying, $28, $29 a door for that, and they're getting it for free. And then, what probably will end up happening is as these leases renew, it'll be a service that they'll pay $40 for. So it'll cover our $30 nut and also give us $10, income generating. Yeah.
Now I've heard of, I'm not in multifamily yet, but I've heard of other people renegotiating items like this. It's more specifically like the laundry contracts, but is this something that you've gone in and renegotiated or thought about or?
Yeah. So, similar to other areas of the property, this contract was 3 or 4 owners old. It was from 2005, 2006, I think. So it had long expired, and it was on a month to month. And, my thought process was, cable and internet's much different than it was, 10, 12 years ago. They should be paying us for this deal.
Yeah.
And, as we dug deeper into it, the pricing that we're getting is no longer available. So we're actually staying on a month-to-month contract because the pricing is better than it's been. If we sign a new contract, it's actually going to, get worse. But the other reason why I want to stay on a month-to-month is that, that can be an opportunity for the next buyer, if they want to remove that expense, or try to renegotiate that or put in, new technology, we want to keep it flexible for the next guy.
Nice. Yeah. Well, this one's been acquired recently. You have any others you're looking into, pipeline, underwriting? What's your near and long-term goals there?
Yeah. So we've been really focused on, getting the ship floating. It's getting there. And, I think we've got an obligation to our investors to, make sure it's running smoothly. But, I've been keeping my eye on a couple properties. Last week, we actually, one of the brokers came to us and has, 5 or 6 deals in that market, that are worth looking at. So may end up underwriting. I've done some preliminary underwriting on them, but we're going to start digging deeper in. DFW has gotten real competitive.
Yeah.
And, I think the Lubbock market's great. I think secondary markets are great. And I think if you can have, economies of scale within your own properties, there's a benefit there. So, we've been looking at stuff. I'm going to start digging in a little bit heavier. I'd like to have another, 100 to 200 unit deal closed by the end of this year. So, we've got, 3 or 4 months before it gets into holiday season to kind of, get something under contract and close. So that's my short-term goal. I think that, the 5-year goal is to probably do 2 or 3 deals a year. If I could close 100 to 200 unit deal every quarter, that would be, a great source of income and, a great source of time. I mean, that was one of the reasons I liked the idea of shifting from single family to multifamily. I mean, in 2016, I did, 50 transactions. So I was at the title company 100 times.
Yeah.
And you know what that takes. I mean, it's a lot of work. If you could close 4 deals a year instead of 50 deals a year, or 100 closings or whatever, the work is a little bit more intricate, but it's the same process, right? So, that was kind of where my mindset shifted. I think the scalability is there. I think multifamily is a little bit more, is less susceptible to shifting in a downturn. I think the long-term goal would be, to be in several thousand units over the next 5 years as a lead sponsor.
Yeah. That's been my kind of my experience, although I'm not quite where you are yet, but I got into flipping because it was cool. You can make some money. And then I did my first one and I was like, man, this is pretty hard. Finished it and made some decent money. I was like, okay, that was cool. But, how do I, then my next step was, how do I work less?
Right.
And so then I incorporated more and more contractors. So the next one, we almost didn't touch it all. I think we did the demo work. And then now we're on number 7, and we still go over and we do landscaping, or we clean the pool on the last one. Just Ashley likes doing landscaping, but
right. Yeah. I mean, it's enjoyable. I still love, I'm creative by nature, right? I was talking to my mom the other day and she said, what are you going to do once you're, completely and 100% financially free? And I said, that's a good idea. Maybe, I'll be a mentor to someone else. And she said, I sure wish you would get back into art. I always did drawings when I was a kid. And I said, well, you got to understand, flipping houses and flipping apartment complex. I mean, there's a lot of design element that goes into it and creative things that make it fun. So, as much as flipping houses is still a job to create active income, it sure beats, working the register, somewhere else or something like that. So, it's definitely a lot of work, but it's rewarding.
That's funny. I grew up as a pretty it was into art pretty heavily. I was taking advanced arts in high school. I was the teacher's assistant in high school in the art class. And so when I got into flipping houses, and actually I think I was like 8 years old when I started building houses out of popsicle sticks.
Yeah, me too.
then I got in all the advanced art classes, and I would always draw houses and mansions. And so then when I got into flipping, I was like, this is kind of cool. I like the hard work. I've always been a hard worker. But man, I just like making stuff look good.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
It's
design
fun.
aspect. Yeah. Um, and then now we've got everything, pretty much identical in every house, same color, same everything. So then the design aspect is almost gone now. So I'm trying to
Yeah.
figure something else out.
Yeah. Right.
But my newest push is now that I'm not working on the houses, I don't want to be working so much in the business, but on the business. And so I've got, a handful of VAs doing all my back end stuff now. So the idea is the same as yours with multifamily is that freedom. What do you envision, what do you envision your life to be like once you're out of the rat race and you've gained that financial freedom? Everybody likes to think they'll stop working, but what do you think you'll do after that?
Yeah, I don't think I'll ever stop working.
Yeah.
I think the real estate game is, look, there's always there always seems to be a natural progression, at least in my career and throughout my life of, learning something, overcoming the challenges, and then, what's the next challenge? How can I grow? And over my career, once I start getting bored, I realized I need a new challenge. And so I look, how can I build on that? And, right now the current, project is apartments. And I think that'll take, a good handful of years to perfect, or at least become, where you can do it in your sleep. And then, there'll be, a change in the market or something else that, will allow us to grow on that and build something else. So, as I've progressed, it's, I still need challenges to stay stimulated. But, going from working 80 hours a week to, 50 hours a week to, eventually, if you're working 30 hours a week, but, you've built this machine that's, giving you more freedom and you're having more fun and less stress.
Yeah.
Now it's a hobby that, is giving you freedom and you still enjoy doing. So, I don't know that I'll ever retire, but it sure beats counting down the clock till you're 65 sitting in a cubicle. So,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe we'll still be working 40 hours a week 20 years from now, but we'll be building castles together. So it'll be a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's been my internal battle is, as I begin to get into real estate and advance in it, is where do I want to go? And I think every aspect of real estate, it's cool to me. I mean,
Yeah.
It's fun. It's never anything that where I regret waking up and doing. I just need to figure out ways to be more fluid in my business day-to-day task.
Yeah.
So outside of, working and any of these apartments you're going into, what kind of hobbies do you think you'll pick up afterwards, or do you want to spend more time on now?
It's interesting. I was thinking about this last night. I'm lucky enough that my hobbies and my career have joined paths. So, I go to the gym every day, and I either do that in the morning or at night. And then, I do real estate during the day, and I've been fortunate enough to, for those to be, one and the same. I've been asked this question a lot. People said, what are your hobbies and what do you like doing when you're not working? And I'm like, you don't understand. I like working.
Yeah, right.
But, I've been doing a little bit of soul searching. Maybe I'd like to get into mentoring because I enjoy doing this stuff. That's probably a long ways away. But, I don't know, growing up being an artist, I was, I skateboarded and I surfed and I wakeboarded. Excuse me, I didn't surf. I skateboarded, I wakeboarded, and I snowboarded.
Mm-hmm.
And I almost didn't go to college. I almost moved to Colorado with some buddies of mine. My high school guidance counselor talked me into it. She helped me do the applications, and I got into a school. But you know, if the day calls for it, and you know we're financially free, and we've got some money, and we need to build a resort down in the beach, like our friends, the real estate guys in Belize, and we do some real estate and learn how to surf every day. You know, that might be pretty cool.
Yeah.
But I'd like to travel more, you know, see things that I haven't seen, and, you know, give back, you know, I think is important once we have the ability to do so. So
right.
Just try to be a big kid, you know?
Yeah. Never grow old. That's my plan.
Yeah.
My birthday was yesterday. I was like, man, I'm 32. What the heck am I doing with my life? But just
doing pretty good.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Man, I just don't want to. I don't want to look back when 50, 60, 70, you know, whenever, and either in. I just don't want to look back and just realize I lived a life that I wasn't destined to do, or have any regrets. Number one, really, of not doing something I wanted to do, and that's kind of why I started this podcast, really, and why I named it what I did, the Fearless Pursuit of Freedom, because
I love it.
At the end of the day, you know, I think deep down, no matter who you are, there's some definition of freedom in there. And, you know, it's obviously different for everybody, but I don't think it's living to work. I've always said, you know, don't live to work, you know, work to live. And that's kind of why I started this, and definitely why I wanted to bring on heavy hitters like yourself that are on that pursuit of freedom.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. I thought I was going to be like the other podcast hosts and, you know, ask about books, but I think that's a little much.
Yeah.
Because I don't read. I do primarily like audio books and stuff. But yeah, man. Well, I think we'll just go ahead and wrap it up. What would be the best way for everybody to contact you? And I'll put everything down in the show notes and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. We got a website. It's High Five Multifamily. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on LinkedIn. You know, my phone number and email are all over the place. You know, happy to help in any way I can, and you know, grow our networks. You know, it's that's been the biggest. You know. For me is there was quite a few years when I was working, and all of my peers were partying. And I felt like I was kind of alone. And this was kind of, you know, pre Facebook. So it's really been pretty neat to connect with you and other guys that, you know, we all have similar goals and similar hobbies, and, you know, really feel, you know, like, you know, you're on the right track with your peers instead of some, you know, outsider that's working too hard. So,
right. Yeah.
So,
that's been a battle of mine. Facebook is like, man, should I be on there so much? But at the same time, it's kind of how I built my business and my network. And so I'm on this fence of, man, am I a Facebook addict or is this business?
Right. Maybe a little bit of both, you know?
Yeah.
But
so I catch myself trying to kick myself off of Facebook fairly frequently, just so I don't feel like some sort of millennial that's addicted to social media. But
well, and I tell people that all the time. I'm like, you know, it's a tool just like anything else that, you know, once you unlock it and you understand, you know, how to use it, you know, I mean, I'm still unfollowing people daily that, you know, when you're scrolling through and some negativity pops up that causes you to stop, you got to get that out of there. But if you're going through and you're seeing entrepreneurs and real estate and positive stuff, I mean, it can lift you up from a bad day. So, you know, I mean, you know, I think it's a really powerful tool once you unlock its potential. And I know that you've done that. So I've been watching you for a long time, and I picked up a couple things or two from you. So
awesome.
I
appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we'll wrap it up. I appreciate you coming on here and, you know, sharing your expertise and insight on multifamily, and we'll get you out there. I appreciate
Yeah, appreciate it. Glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
it. All right. Thanks, Jimmy.
Bye, Brandon.